A plane you can park in your garage that flies 100 miles per hour on just 2 gallons an hour. It breaks aviation rules, ignores industry norms, and somehow makes flying cheaper than owning a car. It didn't start quietly. It didn't ease its way in. It showed up and immediately made people stop. Oshkosh 2025, one of the biggest aviation gatherings in the world, and right there in the ultralight area, something felt off. Not wrong, just different. A small, sleek aircraft sitting there, almost too clean, too intentional. And for a second, people didn't even believe it was real. Because this wasn't a concept. It wasn't a prototype sitting behind ropes. 4 of these planes had actually flown in, hours in the air. Real pilots, real performance. And that alone started raising questions. You could see it in people's reactions. Confusion first, then curiosity. Then that moment where they leaned in closer like, wait, what is this thing? And then it got weirder. Pictures of the factory started circulating. Rows of fuselages, clean production lines, and people online genuinely thought the images were AI generated. That's how unreal it looked. A fully built aircraft, being produced like that? It didn't match what people expected from aviation, not even close. But the real shift didn't happen when people saw it. It happened when they heard the price, around $60,000. And suddenly, the entire conversation changed. Because now it wasn't just interesting. Now it didn't make sense. But the real reason people couldn't believe it wasn't how it looked. Why is something like this so cheap? And what exactly did they change to make it possible? To understand that, you have to look at what's been broken in aviation for a long time. Here's the part most people don't realize. It's not just that airplanes are expensive. It's why they're expensive. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because owning an aircraft isn't one high cost. It's 4 different ones, stacked on top of each other, quietly draining you over time. First, acquisition. Just buying the plane is already out of reach for most people. Then comes operating cost, fuel, parts, everything adds up fast. But that's not even the worst part. Storage alone can destroy you. Hangar fees, monthly, non-stop. And then maintenance, inspections, repairs, complexity. It never really ends. And this is where things get frustrating, because most modern aircraft follow the exact same formula. Same type of engines, same supply chains, same design philosophies, everything optimized for performance, but not for affordability. It's like the industry accepted that flying just has to be expensive and stopped questioning it. Now imagine this for a second. What if you could remove all 4 of those costs? Not reduce them, but actually design around them from the beginning. No expensive engine dependency. No need for a hangar. No complex systems that require constant maintenance. No unnecessary cost is built into the design. And suddenly this plane starts making a little more sense. Not because it's cheaper, but because it was built differently from the start. What if you could remove all 4 costs at the same time? That's the idea. But here's where it gets interesting. Because doing that requires one decision that most companies would never even consider. Wait, you're watching right now but not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button so we can move on with the video. You did. Okay, cool. Now back to the video. This is where things shift. Because solving costs isn't just about removing features. It's about removing dependence. And at some point during development, they realized something uncomfortable. If they kept relying on outside suppliers, especially for something as critical as the engine, they were never going to control the cost. Not really, not long term. And that's when they made a decision most aviation companies avoid. They stopped depending on suppliers and decided to build it themselves. Now think about that for a second. Engines are the most complex, regulated, and expensive part of any aircraft. Entire companies exist just to manufacture them. And here's a small team saying, "We'll just design our own." It sounds reckless, it sounds risky, and honestly, it kind of was. Because when you rely on someone else, you're always one decision away from losing everything. One corporate shift, one pricing change, one boardroom vote, and your entire supply disappears. They didn't want that. They wanted control over cost, over quality, over production speed, everything. So they went all in for over 15 years, quietly building, testing, refining. No hype, no big announcements, just engineering. Piece by piece. Until eventually, they had something that wasn't just different. It was theirs. And that decision changed everything. And that decision led to something almost unheard of in aviation. So now the real question becomes, what kind of engine do you end up with when you build it completely from scratch? Because this engine doesn't follow the rules. At first glance, it doesn't make sense. You hear the specs, and it almost feels underwhelming. 42 horsepower. That's it. In a world where aircraft engines push hundreds, sometimes thousands of horsepower, this sounds like it shouldn't even get off the ground. But then, you hear it. It doesn't sound like a typical airplane engine. It sounds like a motorcycle. Deep, mechanical, almost raw. That's because it's an inverted V-twin design, something you'd expect in a garage build, not a production aircraft. And yet, here it is, flying at 100 miles an hour while sipping just about 2 gallons of fuel per hour. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because this engine wasn't adapted from something else. It wasn't modified, it was designed specifically for this plane, from the ground up. Every decision was centered around simplicity and efficiency, around making just enough power in the most efficient way possible. Even the ignition system is different. Instead of a fixed timing system, it uses something called MDI, basically adjusting spark timing based on RPM. So at lower speeds, it optimizes efficiency. At higher speeds, it adjusts for performance. It's constantly adapting, quietly doing its job in the background. And then there's the part that really stands out. The entire engine has around 135 parts. Total. That's insanely low. Less complexity means fewer failure points, easier maintenance, lower cost. Everything becomes simpler, and somehow, it still works. But here's the part that breaks a long-standing rule in aviation. You're not supposed to put an experimental engine on an experimental aircraft. This one does both, and yet it feels right when you're in it. Curious, a little skeptical, and then surprisingly convinced. And yet, the engine isn't even the craziest part of this plane. Because if this isn't the main innovation, then what is? The answer isn't in the engine. It's in how the entire aircraft is built. Most airplanes aren't designed to be built at scale. They evolve over time, one change here, one upgrade there, until they become complex systems layered on top of older ideas. And that complexity is expensive, not just to build, but to maintain, repair, and even understand. This plane didn't follow that path. It was designed from day one like a product, something repeatable, something scalable, something that could be built again and again without getting more complicated each time. And that changes everything. Because when you start with manufacturing in mind, every part gets questioned. Do we really need this? Can this be simpler? Can this be combined? And slowly, the design starts shrinking, not in size, but in complexity. Take something as simple as an aileron. In most aircraft, it's a multi-part assembly. Complex, time-consuming. Here, it's basically 3 pieces. Folded, riveted, done. That's it. And it doesn't stop there. They use something called a matched hole design, which means the parts align perfectly without needing heavy fixtures or constant adjustments. You put them together, and they just fit. Less labor, less time, less room for error. Everything is built in-house, from raw sheets of aluminum and steel, using CNC machines, laser cutters, and press systems. Parts are created, grouped into subassemblies, and then brought together in a logical sequence. No wasted motion, no unnecessary steps. It's not just engineering. It's efficiency, designed into the DNA of the airplane. And that's why it feels different. Because nothing here is accidental. Every curve, every part, every decision was intentional. You can mess up a great concept with poor execution, but you can't fix a bad concept with great execution. They understood that and built around it. But even with all this engineering, one feature changes everything. One thing that doesn't just reduce cost, it removes it entirely. So what is it? Because chances are, you've never seen it done like this before. And this is where everything clicks. Because up until now, every improvement we've seen, engine, design, manufacturing, it all reduces cost, makes things cheaper, more efficient. But this next feature doesn't just reduce cost. It removes one of the highest costs entirely. The wings fold. Not in theory, not with tools, not with a team. One person. I can do it in just a few minutes. And the process itself feels almost unreal. You disconnect the aileron with a simple mechanism, pull a pin, swing the wing back, lock it in place with a safety latch. That's it. No struggle, no complexity, just a clean, mechanical motion that feels intentional. And suddenly, the airplane changes. Because now it's not sitting in a hangar anymore. It's sitting in your garage, or on a trailer, or tucked into a space that used to be for a car. Think about that. No hangar fees, no waiting lists, no driving to the airport just to check on your aircraft. You can literally take it with you, across states, across the country. Fold it, tow it, unfold it, fly. And that changes how you think about flying, because it's no longer tied to a location. It's not locked inside an airport system. It becomes portable, personal, something you control completely. Even shipping becomes simple. Fold the wings, pack it, send it anywhere in the world. This is where it stops being just an airplane and becomes something else. Because if you can store it at home, what does that do to flying itself? Because now, flying isn't limited to airports anymore. And then comes the part that really matters. Because you can design something clever, you can make it cheap, you can even make it portable. But if it doesn't feel right in the air, none of it works. So what happens when you actually fly it? At first, it feels normal. The takeoff is smooth, nothing dramatic. But then, you start noticing the response. The controls feel tight, direct. There's no looseness, no delay, just immediate feedback the moment you move. And that's where it gets fun. Full-span ailerons give it a surprisingly strong roll. The rudder authority is solid. You can control direction without even touching the brakes. On the ground, it feels precise. In the air, it feels alive. And here's the part that catches people off guard. There are no flaps. Because it doesn't need them. With a stall speed around 45 miles per hour, it can already land slow and controlled without adding complexity. That's one less system, one less cost, one less thing to worry about. But it's not perfect. The pitch can feel light, almost too sensitive at first. If you're not careful, you can overcorrect. But once you adjust, it smooths out, becomes predictable, comfortable. And in crosswinds, surprisingly capable. More than you'd expect from something this small. And then you realize this doesn't fly like a cheap plane. It feels refined, balanced, like something much more expensive. So now the question shifts. If it flies this well, what's the catch? Because yes, there are trade-offs. Because as impressive as this aircraft is, it's not trying to be everything. And that's important, because a lot of people will look at it and expect it to replace traditional airplanes. It doesn't. It's a single-seat aircraft. No passengers, no extra space. It's just you and the sky. And range? Limited. Around a few hundred miles depending on conditions. Enough for local flying, short trips, exploration. But not cross-country missions. Weather matters too. This isn't something you take into heavy conditions or long-distance travel plans. It's simple, lightweight, which means it's more sensitive, more dependent on good conditions, and that's not a flaw. That's the design, because this plane isn't built for utility, it's built for fun, for people who just want to fly, not travel, not commute, just experience it. And that's a completely different mindset. It's for first-time owners, recreational pilots, people who always wanted to fly, but couldn't justify the cost or complexity. Not for everyone, and that's the point. Because maybe it was never meant to replace airplanes. Maybe it's something else entirely. So what if this isn't competing with aircraft, but redefining them? Because when you zoom out, this changes something much bigger. And this is where everything connects. Because once you step back and look at it, this isn't just about one airplane. It's about what happens when flying becomes accessible again. For decades, aviation slowly drifted away from everyday people. Costs went up, complexity increased, and flying became something you had to commit your life to, not just something you could enjoy. But this pulls it back. A price close to a car, a machine you can store at home, something you can maintain, understand, and actually use without needing an entire support system behind you. And that opens a door, because now the barrier isn't money. It's not infrastructure, it's just interest. And history has shown what happens when that barrier disappears. There was a time, back in the early days of aviation, when airplanes were simple, affordable, and everywhere. People didn't see flying as elite. They saw it as possible. This feels like that moment again. Not identical. Not the same era, but the same shift. A new category of pilots. A new kind of ownership. A new way to think about what an airplane even is. This is the future, disguised as the past. And suddenly, the question isn't, can you afford to fly? It's something much simpler. How many people are about to start? And that's where everything comes full circle. A plane in your garage, flying 100 miles an hour on 2 gallons an hour. That used to sound impossible. Now it's real. And maybe the biggest shift isn't the aircraft itself. It's who gets to fly next. So honestly, would you?